What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Hard in the Paint. I am your host, David Grubb, and today we're talking NBA playoffs. This has been one of the strangest postseasons in recent NBA history. In the East, the number one seeded Milwaukee Bucks failed to make it out of the first round. And an eighth seed, the Miami Heat, has advanced to the conference finals after barely escaping the play-in tournament. Out west, the Lakers and Nuggets are the last two teams standing. The Nuggets were supposed to be here, but the Lakers are the unlikely seventh seed, with LeBron James and Anthony Davis looking to claim their second title together. So I've asked Ronald Agers, longtime NBA writer and good friend of the show, to join me, and we'll discuss how we got here and where we think the postseason is headed. Stay tuned for our conversation right here on Hard in the Paint. Joining me now on Hard to Paint is frequent guest and good friend of mine, Mr. Ron Agers, and we're going to talk NBA here on Points in the Paint. So I got 10 questions that I'm going to run down. Ron, welcome back. Good to see you, my brother. And the NBA playoffs, it has gotten very, very interesting at this point.
Yeah, it has been interesting. Some good, some bad, a lot of it indifferent.
It's before we get into the questions, I do, the interest, it's been very strange because we've watched the ratings for the playoffs. And I think the NBA has made some miscalculations here in the way that it's set up the playoffs. Number one, you've not seen Denver really in any real primetime situations throughout the playoffs. Through two rounds of the playoffs, the Nuggets have not been featured on Saturday or Sunday in the big game. It's not been the Nuggets. And I think that's a huge failing by the league, considering now the Nuggets are in the conference championship. The other part of this has been, I think the league, again, these dates and the times have been so staggered out. They've gotten the big markets, New York involved, Miami involved, LA involved, all the cities that they want, and yet the ratings for the playoffs have been very low. And I think that the NBA, for all the stuff that they talked about with the play-in and these things garnering interest, I think it's just exposed that there aren't any great teams this year.
Really, they're not. And let's go back to your original point of Denver being a basically a non-existent entity on television. However, they're in the conference finals, and they pretty much have the best player in the league in Nikola Jokic. Joel Embiid won the MVP, but now we're realizing that he's not.
We'll talk about that.
Here's the thing.
We'll get to that.
Here's the thing. You can tell that the media, the way it's covered, the way it's set up, the system is now broken. Because the people on the East Coast cannot stay up at 10:30 in the morning, at 10:30 at night, and stay up till 1, maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. It's just not going to happen. And really, the East Coast is a very important thing. I think they think that as long as LeBron is going somewhere or is in LA or wherever he goes, the audience is going to go. Ratings was high when he was in Cleveland because it's on the East Coast. Hey, you can watch him play. You can go to sleep at 11 o'clock. And you're not half dead going to work in the next morning.
And who were LeBron's primary rivals when he was with the Cavs? Boston.
Yes.
Miami. When he goes to Miami, of course, and you have Boston again, Detroit, which gives you that Chicago. Chicago was under. So you got the cities that you want TV-wise were the cities that were impacted the most by LeBron at his peak.
And I don't think people really understood this. And when I was in Lakeshore Life, that's what my readers really appreciated. They knew I was on the East Coast. They knew that, hey, Ron's up to around 2 o'clock in the morning, getting this post ready and getting it ready for us in the morning. So it's almost like a newspaper for everybody. So it's not easy to do. And if you're covering the NBA, you're going to be up really, really late. And God forbid, if they go overtime on those late games, they go from 1 to. Do you remember that Clippers Sacramento Kings game where it went triple overtime? We're talking 3 in the morning, and thank God the game was great. It was a wonderful, exciting game, but you're gonna feel it for the next 2 days, and if your body clock is gonna be a wreck. And for all of us guys that cover NBA media, we have no choice. We have to do this. That's our job. Mm-hmm. But if you got the regular 9 to 5 where you got to be in the office at 8:30 in the morning, ain't nobody going to do that. And this is just a system that is broken. You can go to YouTube and get the highlights. You can go to Twitter and whatnot, and you get the stuff streaming. So it really doesn't matter. It's not like in the old days, like with tape delay and
well, I think it's deeper than that. I mean, it's, the access is there, but it's the scheduling. Because if you schedule them late, it doesn't matter. The casual fan and your TV ratings, which is what is driven by here, you're not going to get those good ratings. And I think that the NBA is just, they've oversaturated it in one sense, and they've spread the playoffs out so much in the other by making it the playoffs last so much longer. There are games that I'm okay with missing as long as they're not the pivotal games. And then when those get scheduled, having them start at 9 o'clock Central Time, which I'm in the best zone in Central. We view TV, we're in the good spot in the Central. But that's still, that 9 o'clock start for a West Coast game is murder, because like you said, you're not done till 11:30 midnight Central, 1:30 on the East Coast, and then you're talking about post game and waiting for those types of things. I think it hurts, particularly if you're trying to grow an audience in a league now where the older players are phasing out. The people LeBron will be gone in 3-4 years, and it's weird that we're still saying that because he's going to be in his early 40s. But when LeBron's gone, that group, those late 90s, early 2000s are all gone. And you're dealing with these younger players, and younger 10 to 13 to 15-year-olds are not up at 1 a.m. watching these games.
No, because they can't. The fact is they can't. And honestly, the product, at least for this year or the last couple of years, is not warranted anybody to want to stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning, even if they could.
Well, let's look at the Final Four. The biggest surprise for you among those that are in the Final Four, and the biggest disappointment among those who didn't make it?
Well, it's going to be a little bit of a tie. The Miami Heat, because when Jimmy Butler just came flat out said, I don't really start playing hard till after the All-Star break, it just drove me nuts. Because we were both Knicks fans. We both left them after the Jalen Brunson thing. I took my lawyers to South Beach because I'm a Jimmy Butler fan, and to hear him say that, it's just, we know why he's coasting, because he played under Tom Thibodeau twice.
So many minutes. The
in
minutes
Chicago,
he's played his career are ridiculous.
Is absolutely, people just do not understand. People talk about how many minutes LeBron has. We need to talk about how many minutes Jimmy Butler's played.
Jimmy got minutes. He's still the NBA leader since he came in the league.
Yes, and he really doesn't have the opportunity to rest on the defensive end. He has to defend the best player and score. So he's been playing chess for 50 to 60 games, and then so we know his knees are eventually going to degenerate out over time. So I was really shocked over that. And with Tyler Hero breaking his hand, breaking his arm, you knew like where was the offense going to come from? But then Jimmy turned into Jimmy buckets, and this is the thing, he can do this. Like if he gets motivated, what he did in Milwaukee, he shocked the entire franchise into firing their coach. He shocked the franchise in a sense. I think
he was.
We know Budenholzer was in trouble. We knew Budenholzer was in trouble. We knew he was in trouble because he was in trouble when Milwaukee Bucks won the title. But think about how quickly they fired him. It did not take long.
If they didn't win the title, it didn't matter who they didn't win it to. I think Bud was out. But I think the Knicks one is far more, because the Knicks are the 4th seed, and we're talking a lot of, with the Knicks, we're back and all this. And you lost to the 8th seed minus a guy. Like you just said, minus Tyler Hero. The Knicks had the 3rd best offense in the NBA this season, and the Heat held them to below 100.
It was whitewashed. It was whitewashed, and I'm gonna tell you why it was whitewashed. Let me tell you why. Because as well as I do, there's 30 teams in the NBA. Half of them are just plain bad.
Oh, the Knicks are mediocre. Overrated, but I think it's more embarrassing.
And Julius Randle's game has not changed one iota.
They don't have a top. The thing for the Knicks is they don't have a top 20 NBA player, and you have to have a top 20 NBA player.
I think they're doing Jalen Brunson. I really
Not
do.
top 20.
I think he is. I think he has the chance, and he's going to grow. See, Jalen Brunson's going to work on his game.
I
See,
think he
RJ
is, but I
Barrett
mean, do you think he gets into the top 4, top 6 amongst point guards in the entire league?
He can. I think
Maybe.
he can.
He's the,
But
he's
he has the heart. See,
close.
if you play hard, see, we've learned.
He's the only one that's close. And I don't want to get caught up on a Jalen Brunson conversation, but the Knicks are not good. That's the point of this. But it's that Miami being in the conference finals doesn't make sense. They shouldn't be there.
They shouldn't. Well, no, not in any way. Number one, they shouldn't have beaten Milwaukee. They shouldn't have
gotten in the playoffs. They shouldn't be in the playoffs.
Well, the play-in tournament, you just never know.
Because, I mean, they looked bad in their first play-in game. They looked really bad. Backs against the wall. They fight their way in. And since then, you got, I mean, you could say the Milwaukee thing is there was a disaster waiting to happen because they weren't really right. But still, you beat the number 1 seed in Milwaukee. I think the Knicks one, though, is more embarrassing to me because they really just throttled the Knicks. Like, they just made the Knicks look bad on a night. And if Jimmy Butler doesn't miss game 2, it's probably a gentleman's sweep in 5.
Absolutely. But with the Knicks, here's the problem. Julius Randle, they pay him superstar money.
I'm dealing with Julius Randle right here.
He's not a
biggest
superstar.
Surprise and disappointments. We ain't doing not Julius Randle right here. It's not the Julius Randle question. It's the biggest surprise and the biggest. Are the Knicks the biggest disappointment?
No.
See, because you don't really think of them going far anyway. So they wouldn't be close to the biggest disappointment. I think the bigger disappointment in the playoffs has been Memphis. Memphis was the biggest to me because of the way that they bombed out in the first round, the way that they played, and how they come apart and what we've seen since. Memphis should have beaten the Lakers by right. But
let me tell you what I used to. Let me tell you what I said. I said in another podcast. The Memphis Grizzlies are the best AAU team in the NBA. They have no leadership in that locker room. They have no act right. And this was coming. You could see this coming. It started not with John Morant with the gun in the club.
It started last year.
It started with Malika Andrews, and he said, we good in the Western Conference.
I don't think that. I think people overblow that.
No,
because at the time the trades had not happened, and I think it was a premature thing to say. But at the same time, it wasn't the disaster. I mean, that's confidence in your team. What is he supposed to say? Like, I don't think
there's confidence in his arrogance.
Only in hindsight, what is he supposed to say? Like, how is it arrogant if somebody asks you, we're good? What are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to say? I don't get it. Why? It only looks bad in hindsight.
He set the bar. I'll tell you, he set the bar. He said, we're going to the finals.
It was second seed at the time.
He said, we're going to the finals and we're going to play the Boston Celtics.
Okay, but they would have
in January, February?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me.
It bothers a lot of people in the NBA.
It's only bothersome in hindsight. Every other lead player for their team would say the same thing. Every other lead player would say the same thing.
You know something? Dylan Brooks, you're right. Dylan Brooks did it. Calling LeBron.
I'm not talking about Dylan Brooks. I'm saying every other lead player for their team in the NBA would say the same thing. We're good. I'm good with the guys we got in this locker room. We go if you think you're really gonna win, you say you're gonna win. I don't see how it's a problem.
You said, wait a minute. Understand what you just said. Let's go back to rewind to what you just said. I'm good with the guys I have in the locker room. That is not the context of what John Morant said. He said we're good.
That's what it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's nothing to do with the problem. If he says it, they still finish second seed in the West. After all that, they still finished second seed in the West. So nobody would have said nothing had they made it to the conference finals even. It's the only looks bad because they lost. It's not because he said it. It's because it didn't cause them to lose, though. Him saying it ain't the problem. What caused the problem is, A, they lost their two bigs on the inside, which really hurt them against the Lakers. Size definitely impacted them. They couldn't make a shot outside of Ja in game 6. And then in game 7, when they had the opportunity, nobody on the roster, up and down, could make a friggin' shot. Nobody, 1 through 5 in game 7, made a shot. So they lost the games. That's on them. But are they right? Do they have problems with their roster? They absolutely do. They need better production at the 3 spot. That's why Dylan Brooks ain't going to be back. They need more maturity. You're absolutely right. They need veteran presence who ain't going to be guys who are non-factors on the bench. They need that. But I don't think their arrogance. I mean, young teams being arrogant, that's what they do.
They're arrogant, man. And what I'm saying is this: immaturity hurt them big time. You don't make sound bites like that. You just don't make sound bites like that in the playoffs. You just say, hey, you know something, just like in Bull,
the regular season.
I'm just thankful. I'm just thankful to be here. I just want to help the team win. And good Lord willing, everything will turn out fine. Stay with the cliches, David. Stay with the cliches. Shout out to man Dave Moore.
No champion stuck with the cliches.
Yeah.
The story of Magic Johnson as a rookie is he sits in Kareem's seat and tells the entire team, the Los Angeles Lakers, I got this tonight. He sits in Kareem's chair and says that. Anybody else would say that rookie is arrogant as hell, right?
Yeah. But he had 42, 15, and 7, right?
But if he goes out there and they lose that game, then we look at it.
He gets smoked. He's Tragic Johnson 3 years early.
So that's what I'm saying. The outcome, him saying that he was going to do it didn't mean that he was going to fail, because we always hear the stories of people calling their game sevens or calling their wins, like Steph did against the Lakers. Everybody go tell that story about Steph. I mean, not the Lakers in the previous round, where Steph goes, if you ain't here to win game 7, then don't show up. We only hear about that because they won. If they lost, nobody even tells the story of him standing up to speak, right?
Agreed.
We don't even hear that he spoke if they lose that game.
But Steph and Ja, 2 different people.
I'm just saying the statement does not lead to the outcome. The statement does not lead to the outcome. What was reflected in them was there whether he said it or not. Who they were is whether he said that or not. The immaturity was there whether he says it or not.
I will say like this. A lot of people going into next year, Memphis is going to look like a big old windbag full of players that thought that they were better than they really, really were. That's the way, I mean, that's the narrative. And they're going to have to eat this too. They're really going to have to eat this. Because look, no matter what level of basketball you play, you could be in the NBA or you can go out in the street and play some basketball. And this is just my thing. This is my opinion. If you talk trash, be ready to back it up, because you know there are plenty of people that listen to what you had to say and want to see you fall on your face. And if you do fall on your face, be ready just to take the trash talk afterwards. Don't leave. Don't skip the shower and jump in the car and leave like Dylan Brooks did for like 3 games.
He's not even gonna be on the roster next year. He ain't even gonna be on the team next year.
He's gone. So, he'll be on he'll be on the NBA roster, but it's obvious they have to make changes, and they really do have to get some veteran. And if Taylor Jenkins doesn't turn this thing around in 25, maybe 30 games, they might need a new coach.
I mean, we've seen that that's been the thing in the league, is changing coaches. And one of the teams, the 76ers, they don't get to the conference finals again. They have never reached a conference finals with Joel Embiid. Doc Rivers has not reached a conference final since he left Boston. We're going on 12 years since Doc Rivers went to a conference finals. Is Philly's window closing? And if it's not, how do they keep it open?
Well, one, they're going to have to fire Doc Rivers. I'm very, very sorry. The man does not make any adjustments. It drives me up a wall. I feel bad for Philly fans everywhere. It's just bad. He cannot motivate his team to get past. If Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, James Posey, Kendrick Perkins, Rasheed Wallace, if ain't nobody on that squad, and they all have all retired, that man cannot get past the second round.
I mean, you look at it.
Can't.
You go back to Orlando. He couldn't get out of the first round with Tracy McGrady when the first round was 5 games.
Yes.
Couldn't get out the first round when it was 5 games. He was on the verge of getting. People talk about Bud. He was on the verge of getting fired in Boston before they make the trade.
Yes.
They win the title. Those guys extend his stay in Boston. Don't win another championship, of course, but extend his stay in Boston. That uses that to get to the Clippers. Never gets to a conference finals. And again, here we are in Philly. You've got the MVP. You can't get to the conference finals. I think, Doc has shown he does not add to. He was fine. He's one of those guys that got in the right place at the right time. But has he made the other franchises he's been a part of significantly better considering the talent that they've had?
Absolutely not. To be honest with you, his work. I mean, this is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. Let's be clear on this. But the most embarrassing coaching job that he had was when he was in the Clippers in the bubble. They were up 3-1.
But I mean,
they had a healthy Kawhi Leonard. They had a healthy Paul George.
You're up 3-2 on Boston. You blow this. So we've seen him blow a 3-1, a 3-2. We've seen him blow leads at home, on the road. He cannot seem to get talented teams over the hump. This is the year he's supposed to get past Boston. And Boston was imploding before your eyes. They just needed a push. And instead, James Harden can't hit it the broadside of a barn. You bet on Tobias Harris, and Tobias Harris hasn't shown up in the playoffs since he got to Philly. Joel Embiid turns into nobody against Al Horford in a game 7.
Mm-hmm. And you chose Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. Because bad time. There's something I've said this on multiple radio shows of yours and podcasts. Something is going on in that organization. The Markelle Fultz thing was a disaster. The Ben Simmons thing was a disaster. The process was a mess. I mean, it worked itself out in a sense, but it wasn't that good. And right now, to be totally honest, Doc Rivers has turned into the guy that just has been living off of Kevin Garnett and that 2008 title for years, man. And when they do fire him, I don't know would you even give him another job?
I don't see where now there's any. The only reason you hired him in Philly was because you thought you were on the verge of a championship. Yes. The reason you hired him in LA was because you thought you were on the verge of a championship. Mm-hmm. What teams that you look at that are on the verge of a championship are going to say Doc Rivers is now the guy who's going to put us over? And his relationships, the thing that's the strength of his game is the relationship supposedly with players. Again, those players are about to be gone. That love for Doc, I don't see. James Harden clearly let you know that he does not have a tight relationship with Doc Rivers. So if James ain't tight, and James can't go nowhere, like people keep thinking, like, I don't know where Philly has any big moves to make because Tobias Harris is really your only contract to move. You're not getting rid of any of your young players that you really like. And there are only a couple of those. Yeah. And so you're stuck primarily with this team. You might be able to make some changes, but on the edges, but this is your team.
Doc Rivers has to go first. I mean, please give Sam Cassell a try. Please. And you know something, to be totally honest with you, he probably was the guy doing all the work behind the scenes anyway. And I'm starting to see that way every time. I made this joke. Everything is fine. Everybody talk about, well, Philly got a chance. Philly got a chance. Any Doc Rivers coach team does well in the regular season. And then I say, well, you know something, call me back when they get to the second round. 7 times? You done lost more games than any coach in history in closeout games? I'm sorry.
On the opposite side of the court was Jason Tatum. He's 5-1 all time now in game 7s. He puts up 50 plus in game 7. This is a weird question to ask, but I think this is where we are in the NBA. Is Jason Tatum ready now to be the best American-born player in the NBA?
Yes. It ain't even close. Because the 51-point game in game 7 was amazing, and he's going to put him in Boston Celtics lore. And if they win the championship, you can forget it. His jersey's going to get retired. Let's talk about the last 4 minutes and 25 seconds of game 6. When you are 1 for 14, and you know you about to get smoked, and you got the heart to keep shooting. That's mental. That is strength. That's why I say, yes, he is ready. Because mentally, if you go, I'm shooting 1 for 14, I'm playing terrible, and it's a closeout game for Philly, and the season is on the line, and you go absolutely insane in those last 4 minutes to bail your team out on top of giving you 50. And then after game 6 said, I'm humbly one of the best players in the world. And then you drop 50 after that. I'm here for it.
It's you look at the list now, and it's hard to find that young player who you really trust, who's not Jason Tatum, even though I still worry about him and his propensity for turnovers. He does give the ball away a lot. That's the one thing that bothers me about him. And it bothers me about the Celtics, but it's weird now that we are in a state where you look at American-born players, it's a lot of scorers, ain't a lot of winners.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, where are the winners? We're looking at the best teams in the league now. Denver, their best player, European-born player, Nikola Jokic. You look over at Boston, yeah, it's Jason Tatum. You look at Miami, Jimmy Butler is on his way aging out. He's on the back end of his career. LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the back ends of their respective careers. So you're looking for that under 26-year-old American-born player. It hasn't been Zion Williamson. It hasn't, unfortunately, now Ja Morant looks like he's in a real struggle, and we'll talk a little about that in a minute, but it's just those other guys. Devin Booker had his chance in these playoffs and couldn't really get it done in that regard. He's had moments, but hasn't really had a full series of greatness to get over to that next level. Tatum is the only one who's been to the finals of these young guys and has had these kind of Game 7 moments.
And I think he's willing to work to get there. I think he understands the responsibilities of being the best American-born player in the NBA. Because it's one thing to just say it, but you put in the work and add to your game, get stronger, add a left hand, be able to finish at the basket. Because he got embarrassed last year in the finals.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the Golden State Warriors said, "Okay, look here, this is what we're gonna do." They had a book on him, and he just played right into their hands, and that's why they lost the final. But he took that personally, and it took that into the summer, saying, "I'm going to work on my game." And then he got better, and then he got better working with Jaylen Brown, and then he provided leadership too. It's not easy to lose your coach about 24 to 36 hours before training camp. So there was chaos around the franchise behind the scenes, and he provided leadership to the team and said, "Listen here, follow me, and I will take you to the promised land." So yes, I'm a fan of Jason Tatum.
We look at Jokic, and he's been, I think, the best player in the playoffs. This is the vindication series, though, for him. He has to, this year, win it. I think he has to at least get to the finals and beat the Lakers, because this is, with Embiid losing, all of the focus now is on him. He's put up these triple doubles. He had 50-point games in the first two rounds. Now I think this is the thing for him, because now the attention of the basketball world is on him. This is his opportunity to prove his greatness.
Yeah, and really right here, this is probably the series where he has to show he's the best player in the playoffs, the best player in the series. You have to be able to. You got to say, hey, you know something? Anthony Davis is a tall guy with a nice skill set. You have to beat him like that. And more importantly, the Denver Nuggets are going to need that, because, listen, Jamal Murray is a great player, but you can tell he ain't all the way back from that ACL. You can tell. KCP, I covered him with the Lakers for years. When he's on, and if he is on, the Lakers are not going to win, because that dude can just light it up in a gym.
However, guys too, Bruce Brown gets rolling, he's a dangerous guy. But if
KCP goes cold, he can donate bricks to any city, NBA city, for the homeless and build up buildings. It's just he can get that back. He can get that cold. I think that the Nuggets are a deeper team, but it's got to be Jokic. Jokic is going to have to get you 30 to 35. He's going to have to get you 12 to 15 assists and get those 10 rebounds, because it can't be just him scoring 50. What makes Jokic so great is he makes his teammates better, to the point that you can't guard him.
No.
You really can't guard it. Like, if he's passing the ball and he's controlling the game from the elbow, you can forget it. And they cutting back door and everything, and he finds them in the corners for those 3-point shots. He sees the court on him and LeBron. They see the floor better than anybody in the NBA. And right now, with Jokic being 7 feet, so big and skill set, and is willing to go in the post, I consider him the best. but it has to happen 4 times in a week for them to get past the Lakers. And I'll say it like this: if the Nuggets do not get to the finals and the Lakers find a way to win, they're gonna start looking at Jokic the same way they're looking at Joel Embiid now.
Yeah, and you look at the thing for the Nuggets in particular is that for the first time the Lakers will be challenged size-wise, because you look at that front court for Denver with Jokic. You've got Michael Porter Jr. at 6'10", who has had some very good games in the playoffs. You also have Aaron Gordon, one of the most versatile front court defenders in the league. You have some size on the bench there as well. Guys that the Lakers know as well, like Thomas Bryant, you know him. But there's some size there that they can bring out to defend Anthony Davis, which is not what AD saw really against the Warriors in particular. And also the bigs with the Nuggets can score, which was something that the Warriors bigs could not do. So I think that matchup alone, and we've seen over the last 3 seasons, let's just take the last 3 seasons with the Nuggets. I'm gonna give you these numbers, for Jokic. He's averaging like 27 points, 13 boards, 8 assists against the Lakers in the last 3 seasons. So he's gotten the numbers. And I think the one thing, and I want to get your thought on this, the one thing people overestimate is people like, well, if Jokic keeps shooting a 3 the way he did in the previous 2 series, I don't think it's the 3 that matters as much in this series, because I think you had to pull bigs out against the Suns. You wanted to get KD away. You wanted those guys away from the basket because they couldn't deal with Jokic out there. AD's not the same. He can defend Jokic out on the perimeter. Your advantage with Jokic, as you said, is him in the post, because he can still get his moves. He can get his hook shot off against Anthony Davis in the post, and he can pass out of the post. So I think it's more about how dominant and does he get Anthony Davis in foul trouble is going to be the question here, especially considering the Lakers' unworldly free throw advantages both in the regular season and the playoffs.
I'll say this. We know Jokic is going to get his, and Jamal Murray, everybody, the media is going to say that because it's easy work. Aaron Gordon has to stay out of foul trouble. He's got, look, Michael Porter Jr. does not defend. He has the prettiest jump shot in the NBA. It is sweet to watch. And if he's hitting shots, that's fine. But he doesn't defend. Here's the thing about the Lakers. This is what they got on the Nuggets. They will get you in foul trouble early. They will swing their arms through that little Kevin Durant thing. They will get Austin Reeves, can get you in foul trouble. Dennis Schroeder does the same thing. He'll throw his body into you. And if they get you in foul trouble, like with 7 to 8 minutes left in a quarter, you are in a world of trouble. I've watched at least 7 games this season when they were down, by a ton. And they got the team in the penalty, and they started in the free throws. What were they talking about last series? The Warriors were complaining about what? Free throws. Reason why they did that is because the Lakers have been doing this since January.
It's ridiculous. The gap between the Lakers and the second best team during the regular season on free throws was as close as the gap between the second best team and the 24th best team. Like it's and in the playoffs, I think they're plus 95 in free throw attempts in the playoffs. It's crazy.
That is exactly what they do. I remember a game they were down 27 points to the Portland Trailblazers at halftime, and they were up 25 points in the third quarter. And you writing your little post game report and everything, and about 6 minutes left in the third quarter, they were already in the penalty, and they sponsored a parade to the free throw line. And by the time the game was over, the Lakers had won by 11 points. You down from 25 to 11 points, and they were all free throws. And when you know how it is, when you have to tear your entire post game and rewrite it, they have done that 6, maybe 7 times this season. So Aaron Gordon, he's going to have to score too. It can't be like you scoring 6 to 8 points. You're going to have to get. You got to put 12 to 14, 16 points on the board too. But you're going to have to defend, and you're going to have to defend without fouling. Because if the Lakers get you in foul trouble, they won't let, and they will not let up. Because that is a Darvingham thing. That's a Phil Handy thing. Penberthy and all those cats and assistant coaches is saying, "Listen here, we'll stop jacking up threes just to shoot them."
Well, they can't shoot them though. They can't make a whole bunch of them. You only got
They
two.
can't. They do it within the realm of the offense, but that okie doke that they use, it's almost like they're hustling those players. They'll swing them through and everything, and then when they get and they all hit their free throws.
Well, we'll see
and
how
if
that
Austin and look, one more thing, Nikola Jokic, if they get him in the high pick and roll, Jokic is going to be a lot of trouble. If they keep bringing him out, because look for Anthony Davis to come out a little bit more in this series.
I don't think they'll do that I don't think the Lakers will. I mean, I don't think the Nuggets will do that defensively. I think they'll send Jokic back. They'll switch it off. Whomever is near to the basket, they're going to switch off immediately. You let Gordon do the work or Porter with AD on the perimeter, because you're fine with AD shooting threes right now. He has not shown that he can knock down the three in the postseason this year. So I think you're fine with him shooting the ball. The more he wants to put it down, the more he wants to shoot the jump shot, I think you're fine. You don't want Jokic picking up cheap fouls on Anthony Davis.
But the Lakers they've shown a tendency of getting Jokic in trouble. When they bring him past that 15 to 17 foot part and saying, hey, we need you to come up and drive and then protect and then kick back to protect the rim. He's slow of foot with that. So when they put him in a move where he has to move to play defense, he does tend to get in trouble, and he does tend to get tired. And honestly, that's really the only thing they have on him. Because offensive, you can forget it. But on the defense, he does have a chink in the armor when it comes to that.
And we're going to see how much energy they have having to go to Denver and play in that altitude at their age. Because I think it will impact, we've seen LeBron, even in his 20s, be impacted by the environment that he's playing in. We saw it in San Antonio, and I think we'll see it to play 4 games in Denver. This is not the bubble. That was in Orlando. This is having to play 4 in Denver. And I think the last time Denver had a conference finals was when they played the Lakers. It was Carmelo. They went 6 games with the Lakers. That was a really tough series for the Lakers that year. And you would say that Nuggets team was not as talented as this Nuggets team. That wasn't an MVP Jokic on that team. That was a young Melo, a young, still learning Melo, and over the hill, probably Chauncey Billups at that stage, past this championship Chauncey. That was not this level of talent. I think Denver it becomes a variable, them having to play those minutes. And if these games become close down the stretch, or if Denver can run a lot, if Denver can get the Lakers in transition, that impacts AD and LeBron more than anybody else.
And I agree with that. But I think really the Lakers making the conference finals going back to it is kind of a shock because it's not about them winning. It's about the other two. It's how they got there. I mean, we do. The Memphis thing was an abomination. I don't think anybody really, with the way they were acting and they weren't focused, they weren't going to win that game. The Golden State game, you knew that they were not going to win the championship in the preseason. Okay, Jordan Poole in the punch and Draymond Green in the punch scene around the world. It was over then. You can tell that they were not connected. You could tell they did not trust each other.
They couldn't win on the road. That tells you they're bad teams. They couldn't win on the road.
Exactly. They won 10 all year. And then in the last one the last one that they won, Steph had to score 50. So you knew that team is probably going to have to grow. It's more about, not about the Lakers winning it. It's more about the teams. You're just looking at the teams that they're playing and scratching your head and going, what are you doing?
Yeah, because, Denver's the first team that they're going to play that you feel like Denver's who they are. Yes. As you said, Memphis was so temperamental and with them and mercurial. And then Steve Kerr, basically came out today, and people will take it as sour grapes, but he's right. I think he's right when you admit they're not a championship team. And you talk about why they aren't. These are decisions that come back to haunt you. And I think I wanted to ask you this because people are talking about the Warriors' mistake was trying to build for the future and the present at the same time. I absolutely agree with that. I think in all of sports, when you have an opportunity to win the title, you have to be all about that in the current time. That's where Milwaukee is. They know they've only got 2 real years left with Giannis. They have to be about winning titles over these next 2 years. It's not about 5 years from now. You may never, when Giannis is gone, it could be another 40 years before you win a championship. Golden State, same thing. It could be 30, 40 years before you win another championship. You got to hoard them when they're right there. When they are there, you got to get everything you can out of them and squeeze all the drips and drops that you can out of your Hall of Famers. And I think that they failed Steph in this regard by not trading some of those picks or getting more players who are ready to compete immediately on this team instead of betting on the James Wisemans, the Jonathan Kumingas, and these guys who have not developed because the expectations are we're competing for a championship. We don't have time for you to grow up.
But I think that's really on the ownership. That's the ownership saying this is what we're going to do. Because I remember when they won the back-to-back title with Kevin Durant, and I remember Joe Lacob saying that, hey, you know something, we kind of got lucky this year because we depend too much on our veterans and we're not developing our young guys for the future. And I know, and look, they barely got away with it last year, and they thought they could, you know something. They kind of thought, you know something, we might can just do it again. But look, Klay Thompson right now is inside of his head while shooting a basketball. He is the epitome of a guy that can shoot the lights out who has lost his confidence. He spends half of his time shooting the ball and the other half wondering where he is going to land. And we get it. He blew his knee out. He blew his Achilles. Man, those are major leg injuries. And we all think about the legs and all. You got to worry about the mind, too. And you know how players slide their feet up under there, and it's just so bad
on defense too. It's all those things.
Yes.
He's not good he's not great at anything anymore. Like he can be really good on certain nights, but Klay is no longer instant points, getting him that ball off of one dribble or off of a curl. He's not that anymore. And then defensively, he's not an all NBA defender anymore. So what is Klay if he can't, because he never was a great athlete. He was never a guy who could take you off the dribble and finish at the rim. So if he can't shoot and if he can't defend, what is Klay Thompson?
Six man. He's a six man
coming off the bench. Very expensive one.
Yeah, but
real expensive one.
And that's going to be something we're going to see. This is going to be one thing I can say. It's going to be a fun off season because a lot of teams are going to have to, especially with that collective bargaining agreement and them luxury taxes. There's going to be a lot of teams blowing up their teams and whatnot and get rid of these bad contracts. And they're going to look. Draymond going to have to put that he can opt out of his deal.
He's not going to opt out.
He ain't going to opt out because I don't know nobody's going to pay
$40 million.
There ain't nobody going to pay the money that he going to get from the Warriors. He better take that money and take a minimum deal with the Lakers like he want to. And Klay might have to take a pay cut or whatever because they pay. The one thing about the Golden State Warriors ownership group, if they're winning titles, the bank is open. When they lose, you know how they do it. You know when you do the lean back when you ain't trying to pay, you don't want to pay for the bill. We're in the lean back stages right now.
Yeah, it's the same you would say in Phoenix because you talk about the Suns, and you got 4 players that make up 87% of your cap. 4 players. Chris Paul's showing you that as much as you may like him, he can't make it through a season anymore. He can't do it. He cannot. He hasn't done it in the last 2. So you can't count on Chris Paul. You can't pay him that money.
No.
If you gave away, if people talk about they gave away the depth. No, what they gave away is the defense. You gave away Bridges and Johnson, your 2 best defenders.
And
that's the problem.
And they can both shoot.
They can both shoot. As we saw with Bridges, who turned into a scorer once he got the opportunity. I think that the problems in Phoenix, they went for a name over what they already had. They just needed to be healthy. That was really the deal. Booker wasn't healthy for a big chunk of the season. Guys were not gelling properly because guys were in and out of lineup. I don't think that team gets any better the way it is now. And you're looking for a coach, you got to find somebody who gets along with Devin Booker because that's what this is going to be about. Because KD, if KD don't want to be there, KD's gone. I mean, he's become a journeyman in the NBA, and that's the sad thing. But Ayton ain't coming back. He don't want to be there unless the next coach says, I'm all in on DeAndre Ayton. And I don't see that happening.
But you know something, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I was sorely disappointed in DeAndre Ayton. Like,
I'm disappointed in him too.
I thoroughly get it. You're mad that you did not get a max deal offer like your colleagues. I get it. You had to go out on the market and then you matched your money. But you got your money. You got to be a professional. You got to be a professional and go out there and play. There are plenty of people out there in the workforce that work with people they cannot stand. But as long as the check clears, you have to play. and it was embarrassing watching. He looked like a 98-pound weakling. I weigh 6 feet. I'm 6'1", 190 pounds, and that he looked like me playing against Nikola Jokic. And I'm telling you, that video of him standing under the basket while everybody else was trying to compete and jump on Jokic's back trying to get a rebound is going to stay with him for a while. So if the Phoenix Suns actually try to trade him, what are they going to trade? They're going to trade a guy with a big contract and a bad attitude.
And that's what a lot of teams are looking at, I think, this offseason is every team that wants to make a deal, they've all got bad financial terms on these deals going out. Now, you can make these deals, that's fine, but you're going to have to take some crap back, and that's what people are going to have to figure out. The lottery is tomorrow. That's going to be huge. The Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, as we call them. Is he going to Orlando?
Yeah, I'm going to say this.
If it's Paolo Banchero and Victor Wembanyama,
I don't think so.
Orlando.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be Orlando, man. And I'm going to let me tell you. Let me tell you. I think he's going to go to it. I think he's going to go to a big market. I mean, like they needed. I think I'm thinking the Charlotte Hornets. I think the Charlotte Hornets might get the number one because let me tell you why.
Because they don't want to see Melo leave. The league needs Melo to stay, and Melo is thinking about leaving.
And rightfully so.
Oh, he should, yeah.
But here's the reason why I'm gonna take you into the. I'm gonna take all the listeners. I'm gonna take you into the NBA offices. I live in Charlotte. The Hornets stink. But here's what's worse. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You can go to a Charlotte Knights minor league baseball game and it will sell out. You better buy them tickets 3 weeks in advance or you're not getting in. You can roll up to a Charlotte Hornets game the night of and get in with ease. And you can get there late. That's how bad that franchise is falling off. Because it's not about, because you know with the Lakers and the Knicks and the Chicago Bulls, if they are horrible, the fan base will come together just to burn jerseys and get mad and spray paint posters.
Well, in
Charlotte, they do. No one cares.
Indifference is a problem. Indifference is worse than hate. Yes. Indifference is worse than hate. Yes. Mm-hmm. But
I see that. I really do see that. I would not be surprised. Because really, it's just one of those situations where the entire league is going to change this summer, and the lottery, in a sense, is the cherry on top. But I would not be surprised if he is not in Charlotte.
I'm betting Detroit.
I would like that. But I would love it.
For some reason, I'm thinking Detroit. I don't know why I want to say Detroit, and it's not because I'm a Pistons fan again. I just, for some reason. It just seems like, Detroit, I don't think Detroit has ever won the lottery. I don't think that they have. So, and I think last year, the league thought Detroit was going to be much better than it was. Yeah. I think the league was counting on them being better than they were. So I don't know, for sure, but it just feels like Detroit might be about due. Like Charlotte's won the lottery. The other teams have won the lottery. Has Charlotte won the lottery? I'm trying to remember. Did they ever go number one?
No, they had more.
LJ. They won it once.
LJ in '93.
LJ's the only one to be number one. So yeah, so I think Detroit might be due. It might be their time. Because they need. That's one of those cities that does love basketball. Yeah, it does love its team, and they need a star, like somebody for them to come back around. And even their great teams in the ones in the 2000s, it was a collective. They have not had an individual superstar since Grant Hill.
Yeah, you're right. But the one place I don't want him to go, San Antonio. I don't want him to go there, man. I'm very, very sorry. It would be different if Popovich was not there. But his old school style of coaching is not going to work. And I don't want this kid ruined by him. By his stuff, thinking he'll be the next Tim Duncan.
I think now if you tried to make him Tim Duncan, that'd be a huge mistake because that's not.
I think he tried. I think he would try. Look what he did with DeJounte Murray. Those players. His principles is not it's just not, it's not relating to young players anymore. And this guy is young, he's impressionable. And I'm gonna tell you one thing: if he does go to Detroit, I hope Detroit picks up Monty Williams with the quickness. Call him and say, we got 5 years.
Monty Williams is not good for young players. Monty Williams does not like young players.
I will send
Monty Williams don't like young players. I don't. What evidence have we ever seen Monty Williams do good with a young team?
What he did in the bubble, man. He can turn franchises around, man. Phoenix was a dumpster fire.
That didn't carry over. What did it do for Jacques Vaughn in the bubble?
I'm just saying, man.
What did the bubble do for Jacques Vaughn? He had a great record in the bubble. What that did for Jacques Vaughn? Took him 2 years to get a job.
Okay, we ain't gonna go into the Steve Nash thing, man. That
still
makes me mad. That still makes me mad.
Dude, at this stage, before we close out, who are you taking? I'm taking. I'm going with Denver and Boston to get by because I just don't. I love what Miami has done, but I just don't see how they can score enough points in over these games. And I think Boston has enough length to make it real hard for Jimmy Butler. And I think you neutralize Bam Adebayo with Robert Williams and Al Horford. They take him away. And so I think that you have to look at Boston as the favorite there. And I think Denver is just, I think the Lakers run comes to an end. I'm not saying it's a short series, but I think Denver is the better team.
Well, usually with championship runs, usually the champions have that one scared straight moment. Boston had it. And now they're saying, hey, man, 4 games, we back in the finals. 8 games, we get what we should have had last year. Jason Tatum is focused. Jaylen Brown is playing well. Marcus Smart is doing well. Mazzulla has done a better, just really improving by the game, by the series. And the bottom line with Jimmy's going to go cold eventually. Look, that's my favorite.
He can't carry that every night.
He can't do this every night. And he has gone nuclear through the entire playoffs. It's coming.
It's not the Knicks, man. It's not the Knicks.
It is coming. And Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, Duncan Robinson, Boston's going to throw them into a broom closet. And they really have been the unsung heroes in a sense. And it just opens up lanes for Jimmy to do what he has to do. But this is what they will actually say. This is what we're going to do. Jimmy Buckets is going to be around, is going to be on these sections of the floor. We need at least 2 people in the general area. If the rest of them cats, Gabe Vincent, the guys you never heard of, Duncan Robinson, and all Max Strus, if these guys knock down 3-point shots and they beat us 4 games in a row, it just ain't going to happen. But Jimmy is not going to beat us. And Bam Adebayo, Robert Williams, he's getting healthier and healthier and healthier. And they have basically brought him along for this series. His athleticism, man, Bam Adebayo, he better hit that 15-foot jump shot. If he doesn't, it's going to be a sweep.
And then, like I said, I think Denver.
Denver. The Lakers do not have enough talent, and they know. And LeBron James and Anthony Davis have to go absolute. They have to dominate 4 straight games for the Lakers to win. We already know they can't. There's no way around it. This is not just a trend on Twitter or nothing like that. This is just reality. We're all human beings, and they are too.
And I think Mike Malone is a better coach. I think strategically, I think his adjustments will be better than what you saw out of Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham didn't really do now defensively. I think Darvin Ham did a very good job. Even though, as we talked about, the Warriors kind of play themselves into the Lakers defense by not having anybody in the front court who could score. Yeah. That's and Klay Thompson, that wasn't Lakers defense. That was Klay Thompson being horrible. You're not going to get, I don't think, those kinds of off shooting nights because I don't think Denver relies on that 3-pointer the same way. They're not going to shoot 45, 53s and just stay out there. And I think those things change dramatically for the Lakers.
And if you don't play defense, Mike Malone's going to sit you down. Look, forget all that scoring, and that's nice. He says defense first. He's been saying that since game 1. He has called out Jokic and Murray during the season. And we saw Jokic go crazy the last series when Kevin Durant and Devin Booker went hot and won a game.
But the Lakers don't have anybody who can do what Devin Booker
have that.
did.
But the key is The defense on the Nuggets, there's an accountability there. And if you don't play defense, Michael Porter Jr., or you foul a lot, Aaron Gordon, you're not going to play. And he has options. Look, Thomas Bryant plays hard,
physical, very good second chance kind of guy. I like.
He got 6 fouls. He got 6 fouls, and they're going to wear Anthony Davis down. Like
the Warriors could not do that, and the Grizzlies could not do those things. They could not. They did not have the body. And I mean, the Lakers are where they are, but I think it's dramatically different if Steven Adams is there to beat up on Anthony Davis in the first round. If Steven Adams is there, it's a different, because Steven Adams loves to push around Anthony Davis. He loves it. He loves it. I mean, that's what he does. So I mean, I think it's just that physicality. This is where AD pays the price, and for him, this is his legacy. This is not on LeBron as much as it is on AD, because this is a big man series. So AD had, good averages against the Warriors, good, but not great. He wasn't putting up 25, 27, 29 against the Warriors. He was putting up 21. He's got to put up 28, 30 points every night in this series.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, this is going to be I think the Final Four is all about the stars.
It always is.
It's going to, because I mean, up until this point, it's been about the others for the first 2 rounds for a lot of teams. And I mean, the stars would just do enough to get through, because listen, last series, Lonnie Walker was so far on that bench, he was watching the games on cable TV. He comes in and scores 15 points in the fourth quarter and basically ended the series for the Warriors. They never recovered from that. Austin Reeves gives you quiet 20 points. It's like you can live.
The most valuable player defensively, I think, in that whole series.
Yes, so because Vanderbilt, good defender, along with length, he can't shoot. Malik Beasley can shoot. He cannot guard anybody. And it's going to be, I think right now, the Lakers, because I really didn't think the Lakers would get past the second round. I saw 45 games, second round, if everything worked right. But right now, the Lakers are, I don't want to say fool's gold, because you still got to put the ball in the basket. But it's been more about the implosion of the teams they played than them saying, hey, we're going to go out and take it. Because I think everybody's caught up in the 20 Russell Westbrook getting traded and these players, and then all of a sudden they got hot. And the alarm clock is coming.
Because I mean, I think we got really hyped over a 6-7 series. Like, let's be real. The Lakers-Warriors was a 6-7 series. Yeah. At the end of the day, doesn't matter who the players were. It's what your teams are. And those are 6 and 7 seeds for a reason. They are flawed teams. And as we said off the top, this may be the year with the most flawed NBA champion we've had probably since the bubble. With that Lakers team. And that was a flawed team. I'm sorry. Anybody who thinks that if we stacking up the great Lakers champions, that's probably the worst one. Like, let's be real.
Well, really, to be told, let's be honest. The Clippers should have won in the bubble, but Doc Rivers was coaching.
It happened. Whatever happened, happened. But I don't think it has. Let's close on this. The people who are saying, oh, this shows that the bubble was legit. 14 players. Only 14 players are with the same teams they were in the bubble. 2 of the 4 coaches are different. Boston's been through 2 different coaches since the bubble. So I don't think
I'll just say this to you. Let's just say end it like this. Stay off social media, come to Hard in the Paint. You get reality.
This ain't got nothing to do with the bubble.
No. I mean, that was in the pandemic is past. The government done said COVID-19 is a past issue. So is the bubble. Let's get to 2023, enjoy the games, and see what happens. These conspiracy theories and fan bases trying to validate teams or whatever the case may be, it does not matter. Because look, the Lakers won in the bubble. Okay, great. If you're gonna give them the credit, give it to them. If you're not going to give it to them, don't give credit to the San Antonio Spurs who won their championship in a strike shortened season.
I think we're always going to look at whether it doesn't matter the sport, whether it's the NFL, because there are teams that won Super Bowls during strike shortened seasons. There's Major League Baseball teams that won World Series during strikes, we look at those championships differently. Not necessarily they're worth less, but they are different circumstances, and you have to judge them accordingly. They do require a different view of how those teams were assembled and what they did to win the title. I think that's fair. I don't think it's unfair to mention those things. Now, a championship ring is a championship ring, but we all know Michael Jordan don't count his 6 the same. Bill Russell didn't count his 11 the same. Kareem don't count his 6 the same. You have rankings. Like, you're going to decide which of your babies is your favorite. And I get that there are people whose that bubble one is going to be there, always be their favorite, because it might be the only one that they saw as a fan. It might be their first one that they saw as a fan of that team. That's good for you. Yeah. But we can't deny that there were extenuating circumstances. And that's the only part is we gotta, as we go through history, we cannot pretend that it wasn't weird and awkward and strange as much as people want to act like it was pure basketball and we loved it. It was not pure basketball because people was going through a lot. It was not just basketball.
And I'll be saying, I'm not going to even. I remember those times, and COVID-19 and all that other stuff, and then being in Orlando, and I mean they tried, and I mean they had to start some. I mean I looked at it like this: they had to start somewhere, and you just basically, when the lights were out, you just paid the light bill, you just opened up the doors, and let's see what we can do and get back to this point. Because honestly, to be totally honest with you, even this season, they have lost some of the luster in the NBA. I mean, the in-season tournament next year. Seriously?
Yeah, we'll talk about that, and I guess we get to the offseason, we get to those things, but
they're going to have to come up. Right now, the NBA is going to have to figure out some things. They're going to have to figure out the referees. They're going to have to figure out, get some interest in the league and stuff like that, because
young players. They got to figure out young players, and we got to talk.
And they're going to have to find somebody to replace LeBron James as the face of the league.
We'll figure. Yeah, we got all off season to get into those things. So, folks, please stay tuned with us throughout the off season and into next season, because there's plenty to talk about. Until the next time, he is Ron Agers. I am David Grubb. This has been